All right, welcome back to Always Adaptive. My name is Randall James. I'm a strength and a running coach with 11 years of experience. And today we are doing a video response to Dr. Mike Israetel's video titled The Absolute Worst Exercises People Do. Now, those of you who know my background know exactly why I'm responding to this. And let me first just say that I am not dogmatic, and there are certain concepts in the video that I strongly agree with. To prove that I am not dogmatic, here is a video I recorded in support of popular bodybuilder TNF against kettlebells. Long story short, TNF got in a bit of beef with some kettlebell influencers, and he laid down law, and I totally agree with his stance. And so in that video, I break down why kettlebells are not optimal for most applications and what they are actually optimal for, which is training power or cardio at home. That is the extent of it. Remember, I just said optimal. I'm not saying they're not good for other things, just that they are not optimal. So that should prove to you that I'm not one of these delusional coaches that thinks using kettlebells is the best way to train since Wendler's 531, even though I personally use kettlebells daily. I wasn't even really planning to make another kettlebell video, but then I saw Dr. Mike say the kettlebell swing is one of the absolute worst exercises. And I thought, all right, I guess we're doing this. Now, I like Dr. Mike. He's smart, he's strong, and I agree with him on a lot of things. He's also bigger and stronger than me, and that's fine. He's also on steroids and takes medication to keep his blood pressure in check. I'm also a runner. I would love to see Dr. Mike run 10 miles on a Sunday at an 840 pace with his heart rate in the low 140s. But I don't want to turn this into a dick measuring contest. I'm just putting that there because inevitably someone's going to come in here and say, "You're not even that big, bro." And my response is, nor am I trying to be. I'm 188 and 13% body fat, and I don't want to be bigger than that because it dramatically impacts my running. Power to weight ratio matters, and being a big old fat bodybuilder is not going to help, nor is it healthy. But look, people train for different reasons. Not everyone is trying to be huge. Some of us want to be fast, run races and rock climbing. I love rock climbing. I'm not a bodybuilder. And you could say, well, then why talk about hypertrophy? Well, hypertrophy isn't just important for bodybuilders. And I want to talk about what I'm passionate about, which is all of fitness, not just bodybuilding. Anyways, the kettlebell swing isn't just a decent exercise, it's a phenomenal one when used correctly. We're going to get into why in a moment. Now, if you can tell that this is going to be a banger of a video, then hit that like and subscribe button. I release a video like this every week, usually, and basically this channel is just my way of getting the research I do out of my head and into a creative outlet. So Dr. Mike goes through various exercises and talks about why he thinks they're bad. He starts off with the Bosu ball.
Why is the Bosu ball really that bad? Because when you're on the ball, you become unstable.
Hey, you're unstable.
And precisely because your body detects instability, it ramps down your ability to contract the biggest, most growth-prone parts of your muscles and the ones that make you the strongest. They're called fast twitch motor units, and they're basically shut almost completely off when you're on an unstable surface like the Bosu ball. So if you want to get on the ball to waste some time, hey, it's awesome for that.
Now this I agree with. Every time I see someone squatting or doing push-ups on a Bosu ball, my heart shrivels up just a little bit. So Dr. Mike is spot on with what he's saying here. He's referring to Henneman's size principle, which I spoke about in that other kettlebell video. If you're not familiar, a motor unit is a motor neuron plus all the muscle fibers it innervates or that your brain is connected to. Think of it like this. Your brain has phone lines to your muscle fibers that are broken into groups called motor units for all you people scratching your head out there. Now, here's how this works. Your body recruits those motor units from smallest to largest based on how much force you need. Low force, small, slow twitch fibers. Heavy explosive force, big, fast twitch fibers. Now picture doing a squat on a Bosu ball. Your brain's thinking, this is unstable. If we lose control, we could face plant. So what does it do? It keeps the big fast twitch fibers on the bench and calls in small, slow twitch fibers, the stabilizers, because they're better at controlling small wobbles and keeping you upright. Even though you feel like you're working hard, your nervous system is prioritizing survival, not strength. And since you can't, or rather it's more difficult to push with full intent or load the movement heavily, you don't recruit the large motor units that are responsible for serious strength and muscle growth. I'm confident in saying that a person that can squat the same amount of weight on a Bosu ball as a maximal barbell back squat does not exist. You're training your brain to play it safe, not move powerfully. So unless your goal is to win a circus act or get better at standing on balloons, ditch the Bosu ball. Stick to stable ground so your big helpers can do just that, help. And if you truly want to train balance, then stick to unilateral or one-legged exercises. That will do you so much more good.
Kettlebells, they're great. When I think of kettlebells, I think of very diffuse concepts. CrossFit girl, abs and titties. Scott, you know what I'm talking about? Something to do with that. Joe Rogan faintly comes to mind, and something to do with MMA and athleticism. But the reality is that the kettlebell is an excellent tool for training. But the kettlebell swing is a mysterious exercise which seemingly has no limiting factors and potentially no purpose whatsoever.
So here's where my opinions diverge away from Dr. Mike. Seemingly no limiting factors. The limiting factor is the load, you dunce. If you're referring to people that are swinging a super light weight, then yes, those people do not know what they're doing and they should be increasing the load. Just like any other free weight exercise, by the way. Let's imagine this. You see someone doing bicep curls with 5-pound weights when you know full well they could do curls with 30s. You don't say that bicep curls seemingly have no limiting factor. The person just doesn't know how intense they're supposed to be training. They need guidance. This is normal.
When are you actually fatigued during a kettlebell swing? And what muscle is fatigued? And how many reps does it take to do that? If you realize that the kettlebell swing is something you can just keep going with, but it's very tough on the cardio situation, then kettlebell swings are a wonderful part to include in a circuit for overall general cardiovascular fitness.
So let's start off with how many reps does it take to create fatigue? The answer is it depends on the weight. Just like any other free weight exercise. Yeah, I could probably do 100 swings with a 20-pound kettlebell without stopping. 20 pounds would be a pretty worthless load to me. But if I swing a 100-pound kettlebell, then I'm probably limited to 30 double 28s or double 32s, and I'll probably be limited to 10 clean reps. It's literally no different than any other weight training exercise. Now, which muscles are you fatiguing? The answer is your posterior chain and your grip, very similar to deadlifts. The muscles on your back are lit up when you're doing heavy swings. Your grip is also going to be challenged in a pretty great way, especially at the bottom of the swing. It requires tremendous force to stop the bell from slipping out of your hands due to momentum. You might get a bit of quad work done, but there's no real meaningful range of motion. So while you may feel the quads, there will not be a great stimulus there. If you want to critique the swing for not having any meaningful time under tension, sure. But again, no one is using this exercise as a hypertrophy tool. Not to mention, time under tension has been shown to not really be that important at all, with Dr. Brad Schoenfeld's study from 2015 titled Effective Repetition Duration During Resistance Training on Muscle Hypertrophy, a systematic review and meta-analysis that showed hypertrophic outcomes were similar from 0.5 to 8-second rep durations.
However, for resistance training, for growing the hamstrings or the glutes or the lower back, or for sport training, developing strength and power and speed, all of those things, something the kettlebell swing is neither biomechanically designed to do because most of the forces are horizontal, and in real sport, most of the limiting forces are vertical.
That is a serious oversimplification. Any sport that involves running, which is most sports, requires horizontal force production as a fundamental driver of performance. Take this study, for example, titled Technical Ability of Force Application as a Determinant Factor of Sprint Performance, where net horizontal force was significantly correlated with sprint performance, but mean vertical forces were not. But beyond that, the swing isn't just about horizontal force. It's a ballistic expression of hip extension, which, as you already know, Dr. Mike, is a cornerstone of almost all athletic movement. Sprint mechanics, jumping, even punching all begin with hip drive. Now, does it train triple extension like a barbell clean? I mean, you could, but that's also not the point. The kettlebell swing is a home-based solution, a minimalist tool that gives you high output training without needing a platform, bumpers, or a lifting coach on standby. There's less skill involved, and by default, that means less injury risk. Also, I train in my office. I live in a townhouse. Do you really think my neighbors want to hear bumper plates slamming into the floor at 6 a.m. 3 times a week? No, that's stupid. That's how you get evicted.
The kettlebell is a fine implement, but kettlebell swings are not ideal. I would highly recommend, if you want strength, power, and size, to do exercises that are, frankly, a lot more difficult. The deficit deadlift, the power clean, the mid-thigh pull. These are going to be the exercises that it looks like the kettlebell swing replicates, but doesn't actually.
No one is training the swing for size. It's not a hypertrophy tool, and I don't know anyone, coaches or otherwise, that try to say that it is. This is a straw man argument. The best kettlebell coaches know that the swing is used for power and cardio. That's it. Also, power cleans? What about people that are intimidated? Learning Olympic lifts with a barbell and bumper plates takes a very specific mindset, and most people are nervous about going to the gym as it is, let alone throwing a barbell around making a bunch of noise. If there's anything I've learned about most people in the gym, they don't like other people staring at them. They don't like to be the center of attention. A kettlebell is a much more modest tool than an entire Olympic lifting setup. And if we're going to name 3 exercises that supposedly do it better, then let's talk about 3 kettlebell swing variations that push back directly on this: cleans, snatches, and push presses. All three of these mimic the exact force vectors of their Olympic lifting counterparts. They just don't have ankle extension, but you can add that if you really want to. All three of those introduce vertical force application, especially the snatch and the push press. They also train something that Olympic lifting does not, the counter movement of the hip hinge. Olympic lifting only trains the concentric. You don't control it on the way down. You just drop the bar, and that's why they use bumper plates. For swings and snatches and such, you're passing it back through your legs, and thus have to create a tremendous amount of force due to momentum to change the direction of the bell. Now let's go into a bit more detail about this because power and anaerobic cardio are two qualities I think the swing is great for, especially at home. Let's start with power. When you're doing heavy swings for short sets with long rests, you're primarily training the alactic anaerobic system. This is your explosive gear, the one responsible for short, max effort bursts. Think sprinting, jumping, or heavy triples in the gym. It is not long enough to produce lactate. To train this with swings, you do something like 5 to 10 crisp, powerful reps with a heavy bell, stopping when a loss of speed is felt, then resting for 3 to 4 minutes. You're teaching your nervous system to fire harder and more efficiently without accumulating fatigue. This is pure power training, and it's an excellent option for building explosiveness at home without needing a barbell or a ton of space for that matter. Now shift that structure just a little, and you can tap into the lactic anaerobic system, which fuels higher intensity efforts lasting 20 seconds to 2 minutes. Let's say you're doing 30 seconds of swings, resting for 30 seconds, and then repeating for 10 rounds. Or maybe you're mixing swings with push-ups, EMOM style, for 15 to 20 minutes. Now your body is relying more on anaerobic glycolysis. That means you're burning glucose for fuel, producing lactate, and dealing with the hydrogen ion buildup that causes that deep muscular burn and breathlessness. That's the LA system at work. And when you train in this zone consistently, your body adapts by becoming more efficient at clearing lactate, buffering acidity, and performing better under fatigue. And here's the beauty of it. With 2 kettlebells, you can hit both systems. Use short explosive sets for power development with a heavy bell, or longer intervals with a lighter bell for anaerobic conditioning with less rest. So if you've been looking for a way to train both explosiveness and cardio at home, kettlebell swings give you exactly that in one brutally effective, space-efficient package.
When you ask regular people how to get the biggest possible traps, they'll say heavy carries like strongmen do it. When you ask strongmen how to get big traps, they just look at you confused because their traps don't need to be any bigger. And if you ask them if heavy carries are a good exercise, they say, yeah, to beat the shit out of you. Here's the deal. Do heavy dumbbell and every other kind of implement carry actually build your traps? You bet. But what they also do is fatigue the living fuck out of you.
So this one is interesting. There are people that will say carries build the traps. And while yes, they can, I can agree with Dr. Mike that you're better off doing shrugs.
Because heavy carries means very heavy. It's a lot of pressure on the skeleton, which gives you awesome strong bones, but also saps the fatigue away that you could have dispersed over many other more productive exercises, not only to hit your traps, but the rest of your body.
The strong bones point alone is important. I'm going to stick a pin in that though. We're coming back to it shortly.
Hey man, I have my clients do heavy carries for like core strength and athleticism. Honestly, that's not that terrible of an idea. If your clients are paying for function, number one, carries, stone loading, press medley is all really good stuff to incorporate. Your clients are probably paying you to be healthy, strong, and look good.
First of all, healthy and strong are a part of function, but separate the look good part from it. It's totally on an individual basis. There are people that hire me that want vanity. Yeah, for that person, I'm not going to give them carries. However, if it's a 55-year-old lady who wants to feel strong and capable and more confident walking about in her skin, carries are a great tool for that. Plus, the added skeletal strengthening benefits that he already admitted are there. They're also great for challenging grip strength, specifically farmer carries. In fact, grip usually is the limiting factor for people. Try grabbing some 100-pound dumbbells and walking for a while. Your grip will give out pretty quickly. If you think hanging from a bar is a good way of challenging grip, then logically it follows hanging weights from your grip also is. Same mechanism. So in closing, yes, carries suck for hypertrophy, but if you're not just lifting for aesthetics, carries are a great addition, especially for people with limited equipment. And I think this is one of the more annoying things about this video. It lacks nuance, and it's because most people that watch his videos are bodybuilders. All they care about is vanity, and that's fine, but stay in your lane. If you don't know that people swing really heavy bells, for example, and you can't even differentiate between a teeny bopper doing 100 swings with a 5-pound kettlebell and someone like me swinging a 100-pound kettlebell, then you're either outside of your depth or you're just being disingenuous.
Bicycle abs are also dumb.
For bicycle abs, I agree. Let's just move on to the Turkish getup. I have nothing to add to this.
Turkish getup is better known as a parlor trick. Biomechanists agree that it's not exactly certain what the hell it is you're either testing or training in the Turkish getup, but most would say it's probably the ability to keep your shoulder mobile enough to stay totally vertical, and the bare modicum of leg strength and total body coordination it requires to stand up with a miniature kettlebell in your hand.
So I was going to let this one go until he said with a miniature kettlebell. No, Dr. Mike, you're doing it with a miniature kettlebell because you can't do it with a 100-pound kettlebell like me and many others. And that's okay. It's difficult. We like to do difficult things like calisthenics. I'm currently working on a front lever progression. It's fun and it keeps it interesting for me. I'm not saying that it's the best exercise for any one thing, but it does have its uses. You probably couldn't do a front lever either. So when you brag about stuff, just keep in mind that you are good at what you practice. There are things that I and many other people practice that you are not good at. Now, the Turkish getup is a terrible hypertrophy exercise, but again, this is a straw man. People aren't using this exercise for hypertrophy.
Do you guys know what tests leg strength a whole shitload better? The deep barbell squat. And do you know what tests your overhead pressing ability and strength and stability better? Any kind of barbell overhead press.
When it comes to the lower body, you'll get no argument from me on this front. I want to talk about the shoulder though. You mentioned testing your ability to keep the arm straight overhead. Yes, this is a pretty important position. And more specifically, what that exercise is doing is training stability in an isolated way at end ranges. You mentioned overhead press. Well, if someone is lacking stability in overhead press and just going lighter isn't fixing the problem, working stability separately is very useful, wouldn't you say? I'll give you an example. I train a teenage boy right now. He's still developing motor control, which is normal at his age. When he does presses of any kind, the weights are all over the place, even at lighter weights. More pressing isn't fixing the issue because it's too dynamic. So I regressed him. I gave him a kettlebell, held normally, not upside down like you, Dr. Mike, and had him stabilize it through the first few get-up positions. It teaches shoulder mechanics at end range without the chaos of dumbbells flying around. It worked wonders when I brought him back to pressing. The weights were so much more stable. Isometrics have their place, man. So a lot of the time, I won't even have people do the full thing. I'll just have them do a couple movements. Now you might say, but that's more dynamic than an overhead press. I promise you it's not. The elbow stays locked in the same position the entire time. No elbow flexion. Let me put it this way. What's more dynamic? Doing curls while standing on one leg or a full single leg deadlift? Exactly, a single leg deadlift. But I'm not willing to die on the Turkish get uphill. I have very specific use cases for it now, and I think that the way that I'm using it is the way that most people should use it. If you can't stabilize dumbbells through a dynamic pressing motion, then spend some time stabilizing a kettlebell or a dumbbell for that matter with your arms straight. But look, the problem with this is the title should be the absolute worst exercises people do for hypertrophy. That added hypertrophy point makes the framing complete, and it stops a whole camp of people from coming with pitchforks. But I know what you're doing, Dr. Mike. You want to piss people off because that's what sells on the internet in 2025. No positivity, just attacking strawman positions of people without any nuance, grace, or humility. We've all heard the clips of Dr. Mike boasting about his superior intelligence. So before you come to me saying he has humility, please spare me. But all of that is okay. I'll defend the kettlebell. I'll also attack the kettlebell when people make stupid claims about what it's useful for. I live somewhere in the middle. Just like with basically all the other topics that I talk about, the answer is almost never 100% on one side or the other. And this is why I hate absolute language. People that speak with me frequently will tell you I'm constantly challenging them when they say definitive things, because most things are not definitive. So in closing, once again, there is a lot I agree with Dr. Mike about, but when you come for the kettlebell swing and misrepresent how it's used among actual kettlebell enthusiasts, then I have a lot to say about it, because it is extremely useful for people that train at home. But anyways, blow Dr. Mike up, because I think I've represented the kettlebell swing well in this video, and also in a non-dogmatic way. I get frustrated when I see people respond to videos like Mike's, and they're all emotional, and the arguments they're making don't really make sense and aren't grounded in any real-world fitness fundamentals. At least with me, you know, I'll cite some evidence to back up what I'm saying. And honestly, I would love to see Dr. Mike using kettlebells properly and actually giving it an honest go, swinging the big boys around, double 32s, double 40s. I think it would humble him very quickly, and he would start to understand, instead of making a video where it's basically a joke and he's making faces pretending like he's doing it properly when he's not. But that's it for me. Once again, my name is Randall James, and this is Always Adaptive, a business born from the idea that you are always adapting, literally right this moment, whether you're sitting or standing. That is an input that your body is adapting to. So control your inputs, and you can control your life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you at the next one. Stay adaptive.